back. I'm Di, and today I am bringing you my June wrap-up. In June, I actually managed to finish 4 novels. I thought I didn't do as well because I was feeling a bit slumpish during the month. It took me a really long time to actually finish a book, but looking back on it now, I guess I didn't do too badly. So let's get into it. First off, I read The Silver Chair, which is the 6th installment in the Chronicles of Narnia by C.S. Lewis. I have been buddy reading this series with Lee from TotalLee.net. We are reading this in chronological order, so we are almost done with this series. This one follows Eustace again and his school friend Jill. They're whisked to Narnia, and now Prince Caspian is King Caspian, and he has a son, Prince Ridlin, who has gone missing. And so Eustace and Jill have been asked to go and find Prince Ridlin and bring him back to Narnia. This one was interesting, it was enjoyable, but still just didn't have anything more than just being enjoyable for me. There were parts in this story where I was reading and I picked up on things, and waiting for the characters to pick up on what I picked up on was a bit of a struggle, but like I said, this one was enjoyable. More religious aspects in this one. I ended up giving this 3 stars, and Lee and I will be finishing the series with The Last Battle in July. The next book I read was Dorothy Must Die. This is the first in the Dorothy Must Die series by Danielle Page. I actually hadn't planned on reading this book. It was never on my TBR, but I had found out at the beginning of the month that Barnes & Noble was offering it as a serial read. So they were offering a chapter a day or a couple chapters a day of the book to read for free through their Nook app under B&N Readouts. And so by the time I had found out about it, about 10 chapters were already released, and I thought, oh well, if I just read a couple chapters here and there, I'll be done with the book by the end of the month. This one follows our character Amy. She lives in Kansas and is taken back in the same fashion as Dorothy was to Oz, but Oz has changed quite a bit. Now the people who we thought were good, Dorothy and Glinda, are bad, and the people we thought were bad, like Mombi, are good. So Amy gets captured by Dorothy, and Dorothy can't believe that somebody else from Kansas has come to Oz, and she immediately locks her up. Well, Amy gets saved by Mombi on the condition that she joins the Revolutionary Order of the Wicked. I think that's what they're called, and they're basically trying to bring Dorothy down. So in this situation, Amy has no choice but to accept Mombi's offer, and she becomes part of their cause. Mombi and Glinda's twin sister and a couple other characters that I'm not familiar with because I never read the book, but I presume they're in the stories, teach her how to use the magic that's in Oz to help her in her mission to kill Dorothy. Now, like I mentioned, I never read The Wizard of Oz or any of the books in that series. They are on my list to read. I have watched the movie, and Return to Oz is one of my favorite movies from when I was a child. But other than those two, I don't know anything about the world. So going into this, it was really easy for me to get immersed into the story because I was already familiar with the characters and some of the things that had happened prior with Dorothy. I was pleasantly surprised at how much I enjoyed this book. By the time that I had gotten to where the serial reads had released their chapters. I was almost at the end and I could not wait any longer, so I had to go and borrow a copy so that I could just read the end and find out exactly what was going on. The twist to this story really kept me intrigued and wondering, okay, who do we trust? Do we trust the wicked or do we trust the good? Who's wicked? Who's good? I really enjoyed this. As you can see behind me, I already have the next 2 installments in the series ready to read, and I'm really looking forward to getting into it. I ended up giving Dorothy Must Die 4 stars. The next book I read, and I used the word read gently, was The Green Mile by Stephen King. This is all 6 serial novels in one bind-up. I didn't actually read the whole thing. I read the first 100 pages and just wasn't interested in what was going on. I pretty much thought I figured out what was going to happen to our main character, so then I read the last 100-something pages and finished the book out. So I'm not saying that I DNF'd this, because I did end up reading the end, but I did not read the whole thing. This book is about a character named John Coffey. He was convicted of killing 2 young girls, and he is in this penitentiary where they have an electric chair. He is awaiting his execution date. But there's more to John than meets the eye. As I said, I pretty much thought I figured out what was going to happen to John. After reading the end, it was exactly as I thought it was going to be. When I say the end, I read the last serial novel, so novel number 6. So I did read that section in its entirety. It gave a lot of information on what happened with other characters that were introduced in the story, so I don't feel like I was left with any questions. I don't have any want to read anything else that I skipped over. In the end, I only gave this one 2 stars because that's really the only feeling I have on this, is that it was okay. Now, that being said, I'm still interested in reading more Stephen King, but this one just wasn't for me, and I will not be watching the movie version of this either. And the last book I read was Broken Wings. This is the 2nd installment in the Hidden Wings series by Cameo Renee. This I read on Kindle Unlimited. This one follows a character named Emma. She is a Nephilim, which means that she's part angel, part human, but she may be a child of prophecy. In the first book, her parents were killed in a car accident, but she was miraculously saved. Not knowing that she was part angel, she starts finding out things about herself once she is shipped off to live with someone she had never heard of before in her life, but apparently that was her mother's half-sister, and she is now protected by a group of guardian angels, and the guardian angels need to protect her until she turns 18, which is when her powers will unlock. There was something that bothered me about this particular book though. They happen to get into a life and death situation, and Emma just constantly remarks about how beautiful her love interest is during the time where they are trying to not get killed. And I probably over exaggerate when I say it's constantly remarking, but it seemed like she is always remarking at how attractive he is at the wrong times. I feel like it doesn't feel like that's something that you remark on in your head realistically when you're trying not to die. So that was a bit of an irritation point for me, but thankfully that didn't last throughout the whole book. The last half of the book, I would say, was really, really interesting. It pulled me right in. I would have read the last half in one sitting had I not had to be an adult and go to work, but I am really looking forward to continuing this series, and I gave this one 4 stars as well. So those are all of the books that I read in June. Let me know what you read in June, or if you've read any of these books. As you can see, I do have a book outlet box right here, so I will be filming a haul shortly. I hope you're all doing great, and until next time, take care and smile always. Bye.